So for this one, we're graphing, and if you notice that this graph is already in intercept form. So intercept form, the generic one, is y equals a times x minus p times x minus q, and your x-intercepts are p and q, okay? And whenever you find that, you can write them like this, okay? P comma 0 and q comma 0. So if you take a look at what you have, right here and right here, okay, it looks like you would have P and Q, okay, but actually what we do is we take the opposites of these numbers, okay? So we would take the opposite of positive 1, so that means that your x-intercept would be a negative 1, okay? And the same thing for the other one. You would take the opposite of positive 2, so your other x-intercept would be a negative 2, okay? So that means right here, your x-intercept, the first one that you found, that's going to be your P, and the other one that you found, that's going to be your Q. Okay, so since you know that this is the x value, right, you can create a point that says negative 1 comma 0. That's going to be one x-intercept, and then the other one, right, you do the same thing and you create it as a coordinate point, which is negative 2 comma 0. So if you were going to graph this, let me turn on the graph paper. Okay, if we were to graph this, we would be able to plot two different points, negative 1, 0 and negative 2, 0. So let's do that. Okay, so we would have one point at, let's see, negative 1, 0 right here, and negative 2, 0. Okay, those are actually really close to each other. So what we need to do now is try to find another point that's going to help us, because right now there's too many options. The parabola could do something like this, or it could do something like this. Right? We don't really know. Okay, we just know that the parabola is going to cross through both of those points. Okay, but we want it to be more specific. Okay, so what we're going to try to do now is find the vertex. So we find the vertex by using this formula: x equals p plus q divided by 2. So the reason why this helps us is because the vertex is going to be somewhere right in between those 2 points. Okay, so we're going to add p, which is negative 1, plus q, which is negative 2, and then we're going to divide it by 2. So negative 1 plus a negative 2, that's a negative 3 over 2. Okay, so it's a little bit tricky because it's a fraction, but let's just see if we can figure this out. So you would take this fraction, this is x equals negative 3 over 2. So you know that your vertex is going to be somewhere between these 2 points. It might be down here or it might be up here. So we need to figure that out, and the way we do that is you're going to take this value that you just found for x, you're going to go and you're going to plug it in wherever you see x in the original equation. Okay, so the way we would do that would say, okay, well, y equals negative 3 times negative 3 over 2 plus 1 times negative 3 over 2 plus 2. Okay, so in order for us to add fractions, what we need is a common denominator. So we can put a 1 underneath, but we still can't add them because the denominators are not the same. Right? We want both of the denominators to be the same. So what I can do is I can multiply the top and bottom of this one by 2. So now what I'll get is negative 3 times negative 3 over 2 plus 2 over 2 times, same thing over here. I want to put a denominator of 1 underneath the 2. But since the denominators are not the same, I'm going to need to multiply by a 2 over 2. So now that gives me negative 3 over 2 plus 4 over 2. Okay. And then now I can add the inside of the parentheses. So negative 3 plus 2, that's a negative 1 over 2 times this one is going to give me a positive 1 over 2. And then I still have the negative 3 on the outside. So now I'm going to multiply all three of these together. So first I'll multiply what's inside of the parentheses. Negative 1/2 times a positive 1/2. That's going to be negative 1 over 4. Okay, I multiply the numbers, the top numbers, and I multiply the bottom numbers. And I'm still going to need to multiply with the negative 3 over 1 on the outside. Okay, so then what does that mean? I multiply negative 3 times negative 1, that's a positive 3. And 1 times 4 is just 4. So my y value, right, the output for my vertex is going to be 3 over 4. So my vertex is going to be negative 3 over 2, comma, 3 over 4. And where is negative 3 over 2? Negative 3 over 2 is the same as saying negative 1/2. Okay, and then 3 over 4 is like saying 0.75. Okay, and you can always use a calculator just to double check. But this one helps you identify where it is going to be on the number line. Okay, so I know I'm looking for negative 1/2, positive 0.75. Okay, so that if this is negative 1, 0, and this one is negative 2, 0, then negative 1/2 is going to be right in between. But I'm not going to go all the way up to 1 because my vertex says that I have to be at 0.75. So my vertex is negative 1.5, 0.75. And so all my dots are really, really close together. This usually doesn't happen, okay? But either way, you want to draw your parabola, and then you draw your picture right through there. Okay, so this one's one of the more challenging problems because you ended up with fractions. But the other ones probably won't be this difficult. Okay, so I hope this helps.